Dirty Birds fans, welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Apologies for the late video today. We had some scheduling mishaps and whatnot, but I am still here to give you daily Atlanta Falcons content, regardless of what time I get into the office. And on today's episode, the Atlanta Falcons got some good and they got some bad news. Let's just jump right into it. What is the bad news? I know everybody wants to start with the good news, but today I'm going to start with the bad. Two players not traveling. Left guard Matthew Bergeron and Leonard Floyd, one of the edge rushers we got in free agency this year, are both not traveling to Germany, which means they will not be playing against the Indianapolis Colts. Shocker. Now, I'm going to break down exactly what this means for the Atlanta Falcons from a larger perspective rather than just a, hey, we're without two players. But before I do that, let me ask you real quick. If you love Dirty Birds content, if you love Atlanta Falcons daily news, rumors, etc., and you're not subscribed, what are we doing? Hit that subscribe button right now, and then hit that little bell icon and never ever miss a time that we go live or a time that we post a video. So the Falcoholic is one of my favorite places to get my Atlanta Falcons news, which then I deliver to you guys. And this is what they had to say about the last two injuries surrounding Matthew Bergeron and Leonard Floyd. Specifically said, starting left guard Matthew Bergeron, edge rusher Leonard Floyd, and swing tackle Storm Norton, but we kind of knew this already, wouldn't make the trip with the team to Berlin. Bergeron injured his ankle in the first quarter of the team's Week 9 loss to the New England Patriots and did not return. Floyd is dealing with a hamstring injury. Now, we knew Storm Norton was going to be one of those players that was going to have to get like gradually integrated back onto the practice field, not even into the game. So we're not even worried about that right now. But the two that we are at least a little bit concerned about are Bergeron and Floyd. And here's what I will also say. Injuries are a reflection of conditioning habits, which starts at practice, it continues into your weightlifting program, and it is ultimately a reflection of how the coaching staff and the organization handles nutrition, handles training, and preparation for these players' bodies heading into the NFL season. Now, not every injury is based on that. Accidents happen all the time. So I'm not here to say that 100% of the blame goes on the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff and weightlifting and strength and conditioning staff. But I will also say that the Falcons have dealt with a multitude, a cornucopia of injuries this season. And not every single one of those is just some freak accident. It's just way too much of a coincidence. So something's got to change, as we've said multiple times, with not only the coaching staff, but the way that these players are taught to prep their bodies. And that, of course, starts with a foundational change. You know where I stand when it comes to getting rid of Raheem and Zach Robinson and this coaching staff in its entirety. Now let's move on to the good news. We got some players returning. Billy Bowman's going to be back on the field, which is great to see. Zach Harrison, a much-needed defensive lineman. And Casey Washington, who granted hasn't done much this year, but with the lack of weapons the Falcons currently have, anybody right now, not anybody, but anybody right now is good to have back onto the field for Michael Penix Jr. And then we kind of shift back a little bit towards the could be good news, could be bad news. Chris Lindstrom, right guard, starting right guard, is questionable to play. Same with Jesse Bates. We'll get more of an update when that comes out, but at the time of this recording, they are both questionable to play. And again, I will just go back to this coaching staff's messaging to the fans and the media, but also their preparation for the upcoming season, the season that we're currently in. How many injuries have we seen from these players? Players that were told one thing, like, hey, we don't think it's that bad, or we're hoping it's not that bad. And then all of a sudden, we get this massive injury update that, well, now they're out for a couple of weeks. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. I could go through a laundry list of players that have had worse injuries than we were led on to believe, but that's not what this episode is. I will, however, go back to one tweet that just came out, I think it was yesterday, maybe a couple of days ago at the time of this recording. And Raheem Morris said about Troy Anderson, who Everybody's been saying the same thing. Hey, when is Troy Anderson coming back? And he continues to just kind of like kick the can down the road and says, well, you never want to rule it out that he could come back this year. Translation, I have no idea. That's exactly what he's telling you. And this entire preseason, we've been led to believe that this team has taken the precautions to stay healthy and yet is never healthy. That's why no starters played in the preseason. Isn't that right, Raheem? We want to keep all of our players healthy. A lot of good that, did you? Is it possible that those reps that the starters could have gotten in the preseason would have led to an extra bit of conditioning and allowed their bodies to feel the impact of NFL football? Sure, it absolutely is a possibility. Just like you could have gone out in the preseason and also injured yourself. There's always a gamble in NFL football. That's the nature of the game. But we were told specifically that the reason the starters weren't going to play was to maintain and preserve their bodies for the upcoming season. Well, now you're dealing with more injuries than you ever have, and you're at 3-5. A lot of good that, did you? It's not going to help coming up this week in Germany against the Colts. It's not, because they've got some serious good football going on right now. Like, really, really hot team. And coming up here in just a little bit, I'm going to highlight to you all of those things that the Indianapolis Colts do well, specifically with two players. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you real quick. Is it possible that if the Falcons lose this game, hypothetically, will a coach get fired? Will they lose their job? I think at least one coach will. Specifically, if the Falcons go out on national television in Germany, overseas, and they lay a dud on offense, I think Zach Robinson's out of here. I really do. And like I said, coming up, what to expect from the Indianapolis Colts, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense, we talked a little bit yesterday about Sauce Gardner, but now let's focus on the offense. Now, before I do that, I got to tell you about our friends over at Factor. Look, the weather is completely changing, and fall is that time to get back into your normal day-to-day routine. It always kind of feels like a reset, doesn't it? Between the back-to-school, busier routines, and the shorter days, finding time to be cook can be tough. That's why I love Factor. Their chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets. You can support your wellness goals with Factor. Enjoy even more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good-for-you fats. You can also savor global flavors, and for the first time, try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. For more choices to better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. Feel the difference no matter your routine. Eat smart at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50 off and use code FalconsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. How cool is that? That's code FalconsChat50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. So I think it's important to note that the Colts are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, so much so that they went out and made a gargantuan move at the NFL trade deadline, going out and getting Sauce Gardner for 2 first-round picks. Now, like I said, this is not a Colts channel, but I think 2 first-round picks for any cornerback is outlandish, let alone one that's not even considered to be the best at his position. But I digress. The rest of this episode is going to be dedicated to what the Colts do well offensively, starting with, of course, Jonathan Taylor. If you had to pick a non-quarterback that was in the running for an MVP award this year, this guy would be at the top of your list. If you would have told me 4 or 5 weeks ago, it would have been Bijan Robinson over Jonathan Taylor. But right now, Bijan Robinson isn't being used properly at all. And Jonathan Taylor can beat you in a variety of ways, not just with his hands, but he is so good between the tackles and outside the tackles. Why is this a mismatch for them over the Falcons? Well, the Falcons can't stop the run. But we do this. Falcons' rush stuff rate is 16.8%, 27th in the NFL. It's not good enough. It's not even close to good enough. And I'm not going to sit here and dwell on what I said every Falcons fan what the Falcons should have done at the trade deadline, which is go out and get a player like Shelby Harris. That's not what this is. But it is a breakdown of what the Falcons continue to not do well. In fact, here's some interesting information for you. The Falcons run a light box rate at 36.2%. That should be third in the NFL. That's my apologies, producer Reed. It's supposed to be third in light box rate, meaning the Falcons don't usually stack the box at all. Like, they refuse to do so because they line out wide with their defensive linemen. They have these interesting blitz angles that Jeff Ulbrich likes to run. And while that works in getting to the quarterback and producing pressure, it's not nearly good enough at stopping the run. As indicated by the 1.4 yards before contact that opposing running backs have against your defensive line, which is 20th in the NFL. And despite all of this, the Falcons still aren't giving up huge plays. They're second in the NFL in explosive play rate allowed. So what does this ultimately tell you? Like, if you were to just overarching umbrella take on the Falcons defense so far, teams do not explode on the Falcons. Giggity. They methodically wear the team out. It's death by 1,000 cuts. The Falcons defense never gets off the field. Their down conversion rate is poor. Their rush stuff rate is poor. And do you think that if a team consistently is getting 5 to 6 yards on the ground, that they're going to let up on that? Of course not. It also leads to the clock getting bled, which means less time for your offense to be out on the field and getting into a rhythm. Now, this is not a Falcons defensive problem. The offense is ultimately the main concern, and Zach Robinson continues to let us down. So I have said from the very beginning, it is a coaching issue. But then you also have to go up against probably the comeback player of the year, Daniel Jones. And look, Danny Dimes isn't Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen, who you, by the way, absolutely dominated earlier this season. He's not Lamar Jackson. But he's found the right offense that caters to what he does best, which is managing the game effectively. Did you know that his PFF grade in a clean pocket is 77.6%? It's crazy. When you give Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones, when you give him time to throw, he can actually complete passes. But it's not just in a clean pocket. He's also fantastic against the blitz. He knows how to get the ball out quick due to his time in New York where he had to get the ball out quick. 60.2% completion percentage against the blitz, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Well, what does the Falcons defense do really well and more than any team in the NFL? They blitz. They blitz. So good luck in blitzing constantly on a quarterback that can get rid of the football and a running back that can absolutely shred you on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Taylor went out and had 30-plus attempts. The Colts play the best form of complementary football in the entire NFL. This is a huge test for the Falcons defense. It is. Now, there is a way you can win this game. There is an opportunity for your offense to take advantage of a middle-of-the-pack Colts defense, but I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. Based off of what I saw last week and the, 3 losses now in a row, I don't know that the Falcons can win close games because as well as they played four stretches against the New England Patriots, when they needed to come up clutch, they couldn't do it. So if I had to put my money on who was going to win this game, I'd be typing my INDs. Not because I'm not a Falcons fan, not because I don't support this team, but because I'm being a realist. And the Falcons have proven that when the game gets close, as much as they could be in the game, something goes wrong because of poor coaching or a lack of execution from the special teams. Something is going wrong, at least in the last couple of games. So right now, if I had to put my money on it, I say Colts win 28-24. That's my prediction. But you let me know in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to hit that subscribe button, like today's video, and as always, rise up and be cool.